Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. Thank you very much for taking a little bit of your time each and every week and spending it right here with us on NAC TV. I'm Eoin Devereux, news reporter with the Banner Press, joined this week by Casper Wehrhahn. Casper, good to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Okay, let's not go crazy here. Before we get into the stories, let's talk a little bit about, again, the stories behind the stories. If you're interested in knowing how things went with the paper this week, not good, not good. I'll be quite completely and utterly honest with you. This is not one we're going to put in our Hall of Fame. This is not one we're going to put up on a mantle and proudly display. It's not that it's outright bad, but there's not much of anything in it this week. Especially with last week's. I quite honestly would much rather talk to you about last week's edition of the Neepawa Banner Press than this week's paper. But time moves, funny that, Casper, time moves forward.
Yeah, it's weird how it seems to do that. It just keeps trucking along.
Like again, I'm having some fun with it this week, but this edition from last week had so many. There were about 10 or 11 local stories in there. And it's quite honestly, I said this in the previous edition of the Story Behind the Stories, I think it's one of the best papers we've done this year so far in terms of content, relevant, locally created, locally minded content. And this week's edition, although it's 20 pages, just like last week's edition was 20 pages, it doesn't feel like it. It just feels like there's a lot of, I won't say fluff, but there's a lot of air.
Yeah, there definitely is. We, as Owen said, we admittedly struggled this week, and I mean, it happens. We've talked about it before. Sometimes you have stories, sometimes you don't. Well, this week, neither of us really had stories, so it made putting the paper together pretty challenging. We had to come up with some stuff and see if we had any submissions come in the day of as well before we went to print. So this week for sure definitely is one that we can just tuck that away somewhere. We're not gonna like hang it on our fridge or anything, that's for sure.
I'll go one further on you right now then. We've sort of given that explanation. You know what you're in for the next half hour. If you want to change a channel, maybe see if there's some curling on another channel. It won't offend me personally on that, so I'll give you a second or two. Go ahead, check to see if there's anything else of note on there. All right, so if you've stuck around, thank you very much. Always appreciate that. Curling must be off the air right now or something like that. So, but again, this week's paper, what we have, I think, is good and solid, but we don't have a lot of it this week. We had a short week this week because of holidays and the Easter holiday coming up. As well, sometimes people just don't call you back. That's the reality of a job like this.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta wait, and sometimes, you just don't hear back. Like, that's not to say that anything in here isn't good. Like Owen said, we do have good stuff. It's just not quite as good
much.
It's not quite as much, not quite as good as we hope that the paper is, and work for it to be every week. It, just sometimes happens. But yeah, we have good photos in there from around the area. An excellent one actually from Jody Baker on our front page there, so definitely check that out. Very good photo of the Northern Lights.
That's right. Having said that, you check out the front page of this week's edition of the Banner Press. Jody Baker Photography, very well. If you'd like her pictures, you can buy some. They are sold at the Home Hardware right here in Neepawa. And you can check out Jody Baker Photography's social media, get more information on that. She was able to get a tremendous picture of the Northern Lights just right across from the water tower there. It's just a really nice picture. Because I remember during the week's process, I was talking to Ken Waddell about it, and I said, Ken, legitimately, we got nothing for the front page right now. I have a couple stories in here, but they really weren't front page. Either visually they didn't work or for other reasons. So Ken made the suggestion. Jody Baker's always done some great photography work. Reach out to her, see if there's anything of note of recently that occurred. And just so happens within the last couple of weeks, the Northern Lights has passed through all of Manitoba, and we're putting on a spectacular show. Jody was out there and was able to get this great picture. So hopefully you will be able to check it out and see it for yourself by picking up a copy of the Banner and Press.
Definitely, yeah. It's always great to see the work that Jody is doing with her photography. She seems to always sort of go for different creative angles on things, and it's really interesting to see that show through her work.
Oh yeah, some people just have that creative vision to be able to capture a moment like that. I from time to time have been lucky with that with some of the shots I've gotten, but for the most part I'm just you need that little mindset, and I don't think I've had it the same way that people like Jody and others have been able to. So we always appreciate when you send in your pictures, because you see the world from a different perspective. You see community such as Neepawa from a different angle, and we'd love to be able to see that as well. So please continue to forward anything you have to us. It's always greatly appreciated. All right, now let's get into some of the work that we actually did do this week. You go into page 2 of this week's edition of the Banner and Press, the Neepawa Banner and Press. It's going to feel like we might be the Minnedosa Tribune this week, because it's kind of, Casper, just a little bit Minnedosa heavy this week.
Yeah, we do have some good Minnedosa content in there, and this is one that you did, of course. I actually don't think I really had anything in here aside from looking back this week, but yeah, the new arena, well, I guess the old arena right now, they are saying goodbye to that. They did their last game there, right?
That's right. It was on Saturday, April 1st, the very last event to be held in the Minnedosa District Arena as we know it, as the ice hockey facility, the ice skating facility for the community of Minnedosa. They are shutting down. Their new recreation facility should be open and completely operational by the fall, heading into the winter of 2023. So they had one last game there. The Minnedosa Bombers were playing the Minnesota Elkhorn Seahawks. And we're going to talk about the game proper a little bit later in this episode, although probably a little sooner than I'd imagine, because again, there's not much to talk about. But this story on page 2 focused primarily on the history of the arena. It's been around the community of Minnedosa since 1947. It's one of those old school rinks. You can see it here. And if you can't see it clearly, you definitely have to go pick up a physical copy of the Banner and Press or go on to mywestman.ca. You can see it in a digital format on the website at mywestman.ca. I got a chance, it was last Friday, put a call in, asked if I could sort of go into the arena a little bit early, get some pictures of all of it. So they were very accommodating, very appreciative of the staff and representatives with the district arena and the town of Minnedosa who were able to make that happen for me. So went in there and got a bunch of pictures, bunch of different angles of all this stuff for posterity's sake. They don't make them like that anymore, Casper. It was, like I said, it was in 47 that they were able to put it up. They brought a hangar over from CFB Portage, and they set it up in Minnedosa. Huge ceilings, wood ceilings. You don't see that anywhere anymore. And I guess that's for a reason, because during games this time of the year, that's one of the quirks of an arena like the district arena. You get little bits of frost, you get little bits of snow and whatnot up in the roof. And at certain times, it would just start falling off the roof onto the ice, and at times onto the spectators as well. So nobody sat in the first 2 rows of the district arena during games if they didn't have to, because you were going to get ice and frost and whatnot all over you. And we got a picture of that in the paper as well. That's just one of the things of, it's a quirk of the old school arenas. It's just the way it is, but it's one of those things in the moment you probably don't appreciate it, but when you look back, it's like, oh yeah, that's a little charming.
Yeah, for sure. You know, things move and shift, and especially in a building like that, some things like that are going to happen, but definitely won't have to worry about that in the next one. I haven't seen the inside. I've only kind of seen the outside here and there. It looks really good.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing as well, because just imagine, Casper, you had to cover the Neepawa figure skating year-end event at the Yellowhead Center recently, and I'd imagine you were getting all the different angles. You were probably up close to the ice there. Just imagine trying to do your job, getting your shots, and then all of a sudden, what? Just something falls on you here. It's like, what the heck?
Just there doing my thing, lean in to take a shot, and then all of a sudden, oh,
Yep.
I'm a snow person now.
Oh, great. I'm having a snowball fight with the ceiling. But that's one of the quality things about some of these older facilities. It's, like I said, it's certain little quirks like that that make them special. The town of Meadosa decided that it was time to move forward, to progress. They've got the new recreation facility. That's a weird thing. You know, older things like that, they're always called arenas, but then they got to fancy up the name and they got to come up with regional recreation facility or something like that. It's like, come on, just call it an arena.
They want to really sell it.
No need to fancy it up for us, you know. But maybe they should, though, because I'm not going to say who it was, but I know of someone who recently went to Meadosa, was looking around, and saw the arena work going, and I hope I don't get anybody in trouble for this. Well, even if I do, who cares? It's, you know, it is what it is. This person drove up and parked their vehicle and actually went around and looked inside, just peered in just to see how things were looking. And they were saying, well, it looks pretty good. I mean, they are really making some progress. It's like, were you allowed to be in there? Well, no, not really. But, you know, I just popped in just to take a quick look around. So,
Yeah, door was open.
yeah. Again, that's the way things are. Back when this arena in 47 was probably made in Meadosa, you probably had kids wandering around the facility, didn't need hard hats, didn't need any of that stuff. You know, if you got hit with a girder, you walked it off back in the day, Casper.
We're still putting the beams up. Watch out.
If it hit you, it was a life lesson, all right? What have you learned? You've learned don't get hit by a 5-ton steel beam. You can use that for the rest of your life. But again, it's kind of interesting to see the progress happening. Meadosa has really put a concerted effort in as of late to sort of make that progress. They see they need a strategic plan. They need to diversify. They need to expand their community. Much like we had to do. We had to come up with the concepts a few years ago ourselves. We came up with strategic plans. We have a new one. If you look at, once again, last week's edition, the good version of the Neepawa Banner Press, you can read about the strategic plan, the new strategic plan that's moving forward for the town of Neepawa. And they've been able to make the progress on the old plan. They've been able to make strides that Meadosa is still in the process of doing. But that's just the way it is. So it's nice to see a community like Meadosa move forward in that way. There are certain things that they are ahead of us on, quite honestly, and there's certain things that we are ahead of them on. But the district arena, it's something they've been passionate about. They wanted to move forward on. They felt it was in the best interest of the community to have something like that, and it sounds like it's going to be pretty good. It's not overly fancy. It's not like the arena in Portage la Prairie or Dauphin or anything like that. It suits the community of Meadosa. Similar to the one in Killarney, if you've ever been there, it's a nice, solid, mid-tier arena, just all the amenities you need. It's like the one in Rivers as well, which I've heard is very well regarded. The community uses it on a consistent basis. So it's nice that Meadosa is going to be able to move forward on that. But if you'd like to learn a little bit about the history of the old arena, we've got that in this week's edition of the Banner Press. And really, that's about it. So, no, we got more. Let's talk this week, Casper. We don't usually have time to be able to talk about looking back, but let's take a little bit of time this week, because this is something you've been doing for many years, archives, going through the history of the community. Talk to me a little bit about doing something like that, the job itself, and what's your takeaway from it?
Well, it's a very interesting thing to be able to do. I think I've talked about it here and there, potentially, when we've had time in the past. But being able to go in the archives here and look through all those old books, it's a very unique experience for a variety of reasons, really.
And again, just to make sure, just in case you're not a consistent watcher or you're not in the know, here at the Banner and Press building, down in the basement, we do have an archive room that has a copy of every single edition of the Neepawa Banner since 1989 and the Neepawa Press, which has been around for 127 years. A physical copy of every single one. And Casper, each and every week, goes down there, goes through it, picks out some interesting notes or history about that, and puts them into looking back. So, and again, I think that's a real rarity nowadays for a lot of papers to be able to have that physical representation.
Yeah, I think obviously there's been a lot more like digital backups, which is great, but it's not quite the same as having the physical, like, bound paper copies. It's a very different feel, I think, and yeah, just being able to go back through those and have them here, because let's be honest, things that are paper, they wear away. They do.
Yeah.
Especially if they're kept in certain conditions, they can wear out a lot faster. But a lot of the books here that we have are actually really good condition, which is just fantastic. Like, obviously there's some that are rough because, you know, they are old, and who knows, lots of handling maybe in the past, bindings are wearing out or what have you, or you know, we've had some people previously, before I started here, go in and, like, cut things out or what have you. So, you know, obviously we're very restricted with who we let in there. But yeah, it's just really cool getting to see all the different things from so far back, a variety of years, as Eoin said. You know, differences in even just, like, advertising graphics, or, you know, what construed as news, or things that we included in the news back then. Like, there was a lot more world news. We're very local now, which is a great way to be. It's honestly the success to our paper.
Because again, the internet, Casper, I lived in a world once where there was no internet. As crazy and out of sight as that might sound to you, the world didn't have the internet at one time or another. And they had to put the world news and the national news in the paper because that's kind of the only way you were able to get it.
Yeah. They probably, I assume anyway, getting the world news back then, it would be from, like, either telegraphs or telegrams, whatever. You know, people would share it between papers or what have you, different correspondences. And there's actually a bunch of different towns and districts that existed back then, but we don't have now. I can't recall one to name off the top of my head, but very, very fascinating. And as well, I get to use a machine now and then that I'm not quite sure how common it is to have anymore, but it's a microfilm machine. And microfilm, if you don't know, we put it on these rolls.
Oh God. I know exactly what I used microfilm machines in school. We had to use microfilm machines in school for some stuff. Oh my God, my bones feel creaky all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's not a common thing in educational circles anymore. I sure as heck didn't see one when I was going to school, but yeah, it's pictures of the paper on this small film that we have on rolls, sorted for, you know, different years of the paper in the past. You slide it onto one side of, there's a little spool thing there, and you feed it through to another spool, and you can turn on the machine, different brightnesses, etc. And there's a screen that it reads through, you know, a system of, like, mirrors, etc. And it presents it on the screen for you to read it.
You know, now that I think about it, Casper, what might be interesting, we might have to try and organize this. We talk so much about the looking back and the archive we have here. I don't think we've ever actually had a picture in the paper of the archive and just the setup to sort of, one of these weeks, maybe we should have done it this week when we had space to fill, but one of these weeks we should actually take a picture of the archive and just showcase what we're talking about here.
Yeah, because there is a lot down there, and it's kind of neat. I mean, it'll be a difficult room to get a good photo of, just with, the size of it and length of it, etc. And it's always hard to get indoor photos of rooms to properly show the scale of things and whatnot, because difference between camera and human eye.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that'd be cool.
All right, I guess that'll be a to-do list for next week or the near future. So, all right, we've talked a little bit about looking back and whatnot. We also had everything for your farm. It's a bi-weekly sort of item, center spread we have to showcase the farming industry and so many of the businesses that help facilitate agriculture in our area. So we got it this week again. Hopefully, if you're an agricultural producer, you support all these businesses that support you. And even if you're not an ag producer, you still get affected by agriculture. So hopefully you will support these businesses if you can. We always appreciate their business in our paper. Let's head back to Minnedosa for the last few minutes here. The reason I was over in Minnedosa at the district arena was the Tiger Hills Hockey League Championship Final. It was an event going on. It was a best-of-5 series. The Minnesota Elkhorn Seahawks and the Minnedosa Bombers were in the championship. And the Minnedosa Elkhorn Seahawks were able to successfully win on Saturday night, and that allowed them to win the series. So they are the new Tiger Hills Hockey League champions. They are representing our league in the provincial Senior A championships now. They're going on this upcoming weekend in Winnipeg and Verdun. So we wish them the best of luck on that. This was their first year as well in the Tiger Hills. They were originally from the North Central Hockey League, which, if you're unfamiliar, Tiger Hills isn't around our area. Gladstone, Neepawa, Minnedosa, a little further south, places like Killarney, previously Boissevain. They weren't in the league this year. And then a little further west of Brandon was where the North Central Hockey League was. They had teams like Rivers was in there for the longest time. They had Verdun. They had a team from Weway-Sakapo, Swan Valley, all the way up to Swan Valley, and Minnesota Elkhorn. But that league is sort of taking a hiatus. They have to restructure. That's, Casper, when they do that, when they say hiatus in sports, that means we don't want to confirm that we're kibosh, that we're done. We want to give people hope that we might come back, but no, they're done. They're, it's over. It's all done. So, but again, it's unfortunate, but that's the reality of it, So Minnesota Elkhorn, which has a very strong local hockey community, came over into the Tiger Hills along with Verdun. The Verdun Oil Kings is the name of their team there. And the Rivers Jets also came over recently. So they all had very good seasons, but it was Minnesota Elkhorn who really went above and beyond. They were the last North Central Hockey League champions, and they are this year's Tiger Hills Hockey League champions. It was a great series. I was able to go to a couple games in Minnedosa. I always like to be able to go to other communities and watch games if I can. What's kind of interesting as well, Casper, is the picture I used. You can see it on page 12 of this week's edition of the Banner Press. Is another picture. The Verdun Empire Advance, the newspaper in Verdun area, contacted me and asked, do you have any pictures? We weren't able to get pictures from the championship celebration. So I sent those pictures, and I just got an email back today from them saying, thank you very much. We're going to use this for our front page of the paper, which is nice. I mean, it's the second week in a row now, actually, where some other communities' celebrations on our local ice is going to be front and center. Because a couple weeks ago, the Swan Valley Tigers high school team won the high school championship right here in Neepawa. So I got a picture of that and forwarded it to Swan Star and Times, and they used it on one of their front pages as well. So we're getting featured all, our losing ways in Neepawa and Minnedosa are getting featured all over Manitoba, apparently. That's great.
It doesn't
feel great. It'd be nicer if we won these things, but okay, I guess.
Yeah, we're getting featured somehow, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, great shot. Like the one that you have this week here, that's just incredible.
Well, again, you can just see it on their face there that this really meant something to them. And I had a chance to speak to the captain of the team, Dylan Stonehouse, I believe is the gentleman's name, and he talked about they take a lot of pride in being a local team. The Tiger Hills Hockey League, you're allowed to have what's called import players who aren't from the community come in. About 4, I think, is the max. They only have 1. And even that 1 is married to somebody who lives in the community. So they are a local team. And that's the way it should be. You should be representing your community. A lot of the players for the Farmers are like that. A large contingent of the Bombers are as well like that. So congratulations to all of them, and congratulations to the Seahawks for winning that one. All right, we are coming near the end of our show. Now, if it feels like we really haven't talked about much, it's because we haven't. But that's why you got to pick up the paper and see some of the special features. We do have our weekly features. Ken Waddell's right in the center, as usual. Homebodies with Rita, Neil's Faithfully Yours. Casper, you were able to get this great picture of Neepawa the way it was back in the day on page 5. Like, where did that come from? I'm not sure of the story. Do you know where? Did somebody just drop that off for us, or?
I'm not entirely sure. That was actually one that Christine had sent to me. So she forwarded it from someone else. But yeah, fantastic shot. And it was actually in color originally, which is pretty awesome because a lot of old photos are just black and white. I guess dependent on the time period too, but still, yeah, it's a really interesting thing to look at there and have it in color. And you can see in it as well some buildings that we don't have anymore, such as the Osborne home. So definitely take a look at that if you're curious.
And some open fields that we don't have anymore in that area, because the entire north portion past the high school in all that is now a housing setup, but now in the picture it was nothing. It was just a field.
Yeah, it's developed a lot, so big changes that you can see in there for sure from comparing then to now.
That's right. We got a couple other things, some submissions from the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair. Very appreciative of that. The Erickson 4-H Beef Club report as well. Always appreciate them sending that. And an item we had in last week's paper where we had this mystery item, pictures of this mystery item sent to us, and we didn't know what it was. We've got responses back. So I won't spoil it here. You've got to pick up a physical copy of the Banner Press or check it out on mywestman.ca to see the mystery of the strange steel item and find out what it actually is for. It was interesting. We didn't even realize. I had no idea. I had no guesses, but it was nice to be able to get that answer and get it so promptly. So, but other than that, really, I think we've got what we need for this week's edition. Don't you, Casper?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's definitely a couple more things in there for you to check out, but yeah, I think we've covered it.
Oh, don't worry, though. This week is an anomaly. Next week's edition, we've already got 3 items, I believe, in the can right now. I've got a couple stories already done. Casper, you have one you're working on, a follow-up to one you did recently that's got, I think, we're not going to spoil it for you right now, but you're going to be very interested to see the elaboration in this very interesting feature that Casper worked on previously. So next week's edition is going to be a whole heck of a lot more. So if you did stick around for this half hour, thank you. It's always appreciated. If you have any story ideas to help us out on slow weeks like this, you can give us a call at 476-3401 or at news@neepawabanner.com via email. It's always appreciated. We try and get it if we can. Sometimes leads don't follow through, but we do the best we can with what we can work with. So other than that, Casper, good to have you in here. Always appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you again. And yeah, thanks for joining us for our ramble, I guess.
Yep. Every once in a while, one of these episodes is a little bit fun, just to wander around, stare at the ceiling, make sure no snow's falling down on us, that type of thing. We appreciate you putting up with us and our banter and our just fooling around here. each and every week on the story behind the stories. Hopefully you're going to have yourself a good Easter and a good week. Thanks.